Good afternoon, and welcome to Greater Indiana Clean Cities Climate Mayor's EV Purchasing Collaborative Workshop. My name is Kaylee May, and I'm the Events and Communications Coordinator for Greater Indiana Clean Cities. And I would like to thank you all for joining us today as we explore the EV Purchasing Collaborative and the City of Bloomington's participation in the program, as well as its sustainability plan. Before we begin, we have several housekeeping items to mention. First, we will send you the recording for today's webinar. Second, you will be able to submit your questions in the chat box on your screen. After each presenter is finished, we have time set aside for a few questions. And since all attendees are in listen-only mode, the chat box is going to be your best choice for engaging with your speakers. And third, we will have a survey at the end of the webinar for you to complete. Please take the 2 minutes to provide feedback so that we can ensure that we cover all the topics that you need. We have 3 speakers today. Kerri Garvin is the Executive Director for the Greater Indiana Clean Cities Coalition, a standalone nonprofit designated by the U.S. Department of Energy to help deploy alternative fuels in vehicles. Cher Griffith Taylor is the Fleet Electrification Specialist for the Electrification Coalition. She works with fleet managers, sustainability departments, and procurement offices to transition fleet vehicles from internal combustion to electric. And Lauren Travis is the Assistant Director of Sustainability for the City of Bloomington, where she develops, implements, and coordinates programs to promote the City of Bloomington's commitment to sustainability. We have a full agenda today, and we will do our best to stick to our timeline. After Kerri provides an overview of Greater Indiana Clean Cities, Cher will discuss information about the Electrification Coalition and its Climate Mayor's EV Purchasing Collaborative. Lauren will then present information about the City of Bloomington's experience participating in the EV Purchasing Collaborative and the City of Bloomington's sustainability plan. Now I'm going to hand it off to Kerri to give us an overview of Greater Indiana.
Thank you, Kaylee. Just give me a heads up that you can hear me.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Like Kaylee said, we're happy to have a large group joining us today. So hopefully you all gain some good information to take back and help work on your transition plans to electrification. As Kaylee said, Greater Indiana is a Clean City Coalition. We focus on advancing communities with education and resources on alternative fuel vehicles. Our mission is to advance alternative domestic fuel transportation, including energy efficient technologies across all sectors in Indiana. We are a standalone nonprofit 501c3 organization serving 76 counties in the state, working with public and private sector members. For 21 years, we have been assisting cities, schools, utilities, fueling companies, government agencies, universities, and other nonprofit organizations with all their alternative fuel fleet projects. Greater Indiana has around 80 members and stakeholders that work with us on collaborative opportunities, whether it is for funding opportunities, infrastructure development, or fleet deployment. Together, we host educational and networking events, fostering opportunities for partnerships between fleets and industry providers. As you can see, we have several of our champion members listed today. We also have many leader and advocate stakeholders listed on our website. Their membership has helped fund our work to deploy alternative fuels and technologies throughout the state. Clean Cities focuses on 4 major activities represented by the nodes of this web. Under local and national partnerships, Clean Cities helps convene key community and business leaders to develop and implement projects, leverage resources, and address local barriers through the program's coalitions. In addition, national partnerships leverage Clean Cities resources nationwide to engage with larger fleets and organizations. Under information and education, Clean Cities develops data-driven tools to help consumers save money on fuel costs and help fleets understand their options for cost-effective alternatives. Under technical and problem-solving assistance, Clean Cities help local leaders address permitting and safety issues, technology shortfalls, and other project implementation barriers. And finally, under competitively awarded financial assistance, Clean Cities use federal awards to provide funds that encourage an initial private sector match and long-term investment. This framework is bolstered by local support through designated Clean Cities coalitions like ours that have their finger on the pulse of local market conditions and priorities. Greater Indiana can tap national resources to provide unbiased information, tools, experts to address barriers and solve problems, and national partnerships with industry and large national fleets. We also work on publicity through mass media and outreach, and financial assistance to jumpstart markets and incentivize private investment. Today's webinar features a presentation given by the Electrification Coalition, who works to electrify the U.S. transportation sector. One way they do this is through the Climate Mayor's EV Purchasing Collaborative. Cher Griffith Taylor, the Electrification Coalition's Fleet Electrification Specialist, will now lead the presentation for today's webinar.
Hi, thank you everybody. Very happy to be here this afternoon. Special thanks to Kerri and the Greater Indiana Clean Cities team for the opportunity to address you all today. My name is Cher Griffith Taylor, and I'm here to tell you all about one of the programs I work on right now. It's the Climate Mayor's EV Purchasing Collaborative, aka just the Collaborative for short. As you can probably guess, the collaborative helps cities and county fleets successfully transition their ICE or their internal combustion engine vehicles to electric options through both procurement and policy support. But before I actually get into the collaborative itself, I thought it would be helpful to tell you more about the Electrification Coalition, or the EC, which is the national nonprofit organization where I work. I'm based out of the Washington, D.C. headquarters, but as you can see from this map, the EC has staff distributed all across the country to support our various programs, of which the collaborative is one. And so for the last 10 years, the EC has been working within municipalities and with local partners to advance EV options on fleets, most notably in Columbus, Ohio, where our staff led city fleet electrification and EV adoption as part of the Smart Columbus program. And just in case you missed it, it was on the news recently. Over the 3-year span of the program, they deployed over 200 EVs in the city fleet and sold over 3,300 EVs in the greater Columbus area. So actually smashing their initial targets. So that was very successful. Also, I've been working in Atlanta, Georgia. Our staff has developed the EV roadmap for the city, as well as informing and helping pass the city's first EV readiness ordinance, which was adopted. We've also worked in Rochester, New York on the EV accelerator community there. And the EC was recently selected by NYSERDA, that's the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, to scale that accelerator program statewide. So that's something we're working on rolling out right now. I also work on the Bloomberg American Cities Climate Challenge, specifically on electrifying city fleets. And additionally, our policy team, the Electrification Coalition's policy team, just launched our state policy accelerator work. So we've identified 5 strategic states where there's good potential for nation-leading state and regional policies to advance vehicle electrification. So our policy team has been convening stakeholders in those key states to jumpstart that initiative. But really, I just wanted to give you this background to demonstrate that the EC has a lot of diverse experience in the realm of vehicle and fleet electrification, and our staff, including myself, of course, bring many capabilities to the table which can add real value to a fleet's electrification considerations. We really cover every aspect from the fleet garage to the city council floor. So now on to the Climate Mayor's EV Purchasing Collaborative. Again, the collaborative for short. It's a nonprofit program that launched in 2018. Our goal is to accelerate the electrification of public fleets across the country by reducing the associated costs and barriers. The collaborative is led by the EC along with our two main program partners, the Climate Mayors Program and Sourcewell. So, the Climate Mayors is a network of over 400 mayors that have committed to taking meaningful action to reduce emissions, and they conference regularly. So they have like a monthly coordination call to share information and resources on sustainability because of their shared commitment. Our other program partner, Sourcewell, is a very widely used collaborative purchasing agency whose procurement offerings meet municipal standards for competitiveness and transparency. That basically means that cities and counties, really all public fleets, can use Sourcewell's contracts for equipment and services instead of going out to bid using an RFP. So clearly the main value there is that it drastically reduces staff time and effort during the procurement phase. And through collaborative purchasing, Sourcewell leverages the buying power of its members across North America, of which there are over 50,000, to secure favorable prices. And that can result in some really impressive savings, especially for smaller municipalities. So definitely check out our website, drivevfleets.org, for more information and to see our procurement portal. And then just quickly wanted to say that, of course, Climate Mayors and Sourcewell membership is free. Contact info is available on our website, but you can definitely reach out to me personally if you're interested to connect further with either. So how do we drive this EV fleet transition? We launched with a focus on the Climate Mayors members. However, membership to the collaborative is open to any municipality or public fleet, which includes nonprofits and public universities. We've partnered with Sourcewell to offer their procurement mechanism as an option, but there's no obligation to procure through Sourcewell in order to become a part of the collaborative. However, some of the comparative advantages is that Sourcewell's prices, as I mentioned, they're usually very competitive with state contracts, and they additionally provide expanded vehicle offerings. And there are some unique options and discounts available for charging stations, especially using Sourcewell, that you might not be able to get elsewhere. And Sourcewell contracts offer not just equipment and vehicles, but also financial services, such as a flexible vehicle leasing mechanism that cities can use to take advantage of the federal tax credit, which of course reduces the upfront costs for the EVs. That's generating a lot of interest right now, given the budget impacts of the pandemic. And I'll speak a little bit more to our lease options later. As the main leader of the collaborative, the EC's role has been to conduct outreach, do education and engagement among fleets, provide the staff support. As I mentioned, it's mostly policy guidance. We have technical resources and analysis, lots of peer learning opportunities and best practices sharing. And most importantly, the most important thing that we do at the collaborative is track and communicate the metrics that the collaborative is gathering. So we communicate regularly with our stakeholders, which include OEMs and auto manufacturers. The collaborative drives the EV transition by demonstrating strong EV adoption on public fleets so that manufacturers see a strong business case for continuing the development of EVs, which could result in perhaps specific fleet models of certain vehicles, but hopefully lower prices overall. Staffing and support resources. So aside from doing outreach, this is what I spend the most of my time on for the collaborative, is providing this staff support. And note that for us to provide the best service, we really need cities to be engaged with us and share information with us. We can help you by doing things like analyzing your vehicle inventory, helping you identify suitable vehicles for electrification. We can provide peer connections and learning opportunities from among our nationwide network of municipal professionals. We offer a lot of best practices, and we develop case studies from around the country, and of course, procurement support through Sourcewell. We started with a focus on light-duty electric vehicles, but we have been, listening to fleets since we started, and they tell us a lot about their interest in different types of vehicles. So we're always adding new models to our procurement portal, and we've recently added, we recently expanded into some heavier-duty options this year as well, and I'll say some more about that after. And so our gracious hosts, Greater Indiana Clean Cities Coalition, they are going to do a poll after this slide, and I'd really appreciate everyone that's listening if you could participate. So the collaborative launched in 2018 with only 25 committed municipalities, but now we are at over 200 cities, counties, ports, universities, school districts, transit agencies committed, and they've committed to purchase over 3,200 EVs and have procured over 1,600 to date. And the numbers on the slide are really from last week, so I'm pretty sure we're up over those numbers now. As I said, the collaborative, we talk regularly with our stakeholders, demonstrating strong EV adoption. Our ability to track the deployments from the purchase order of the EVs through to the vehicle delivery is key to our entire program. So a fleet's commitment to add even just one EV to its fleet is really the only requirement to join the collaborative and access all of the other resources and support. And again, these commitments are voluntary. We, collected a lot of commitments late last year, but with the pandemic and the subsequent budget impacts right now, some fleets are finding it difficult to meet those commitments by the specified due date. But they're all voluntary, and we still want to hear from you. So once you make a commitment, we can add your city name to our website, and we just add the name of the city or the entity, not the commitment number. And we just ask that you maintain engagement with us so that we can track the purchase order through to successful delivery and deployment and provide any needed support along the way. We want the commitments to be ambitious, but of course we want them to be accurate. So we want you to respond with a commitment that you think is feasible for you to meet. And we also do social media campaigns, webinars like this, and other events and announcements to highlight the work of cities that are leading on fleet electrification. So really, there are many different ways that cities can benefit from engaging with our program. I think there's going to be a poll coming up on your screen shortly.
All right, so does your city plan to add even one EV or PHEV to its fleet by December 2021? Okay, we'll
Thanks for responding. Thank you, Kerri.
Okay. So 57% said yes, 14% said no, and 29% said maybe.
That's awesome. That is so great to hear. Yeah, and that's why we're doing this. That's why I'm here on this webinar. And that's why I thought it would be interesting to present today, because I really feel like there is growing interest in Indiana, and the collaborative is trying to expand our footprint in the state. So on this slide, it's just a few screenshots from our website and procurement portal, which again, I encourage you to visit, www.drivevfleets.org. We update our site every few weeks with the latest information that we get from our suppliers. And basically on the procurement portal, you can very quickly and easily compare vehicle specifications and prices, compare our offerings on charging stations, and get more information on the specific Sourcewell contracts that are being used. And if you do see something you like, you can place a purchase order directly through our website. All the information is there. But of course, you can certainly reach out to me for any guidance or clarifications. So this is another screenshot from our website showing the vehicle models we currently have available. So the pandemic has certainly caused some issues, but we have several really popular models available or coming online later this year. And as you can see, we offer both all electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. That was the PHEVs. As long as it has a plug, we can usually count the vehicle under our program metrics. So again, just another plug for you guys to engage with us and tell us about what you're doing so that we can capture those metrics. And across the top of the screen, you can see the EV charging station vendors that are providing their equipment through Sourcewell. The collaboratives have some unique discounts there, as I mentioned. And charging stations are increasingly becoming central to the support we offer. We can provide a lot of best practices on planning, pricing, siting, rate, and program design due to our past project experience and, of course, due to our vendor connections. And starting earlier this year, we've also brought on board several electric options in the medium and heavy duty space. So right now we have all electric street sweepers on the platform from 2 vendors, so MadVac and Global. The screenshots are on the bottom half of the slide, as well as an all electric school bus offering from Bluebird, and those are at the top. And on this note, I actually saw in the news like 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago that Carmel Clay Schools received and deployed Indiana's first electric school bus. And that school bus was a Bluebird bus. So very engaged there. That manufacturer is, of course, our one of our vendors. And we can definitely, you can order those buses directly from our website and with our support. Sourcewell is currently working to offer additional electric school buses, so like from other manufacturers, and hopefully they can wrap that up by the end of the summer, and then they'll be on our website as well. And we're also investigating adding electric transit buses to our platform. So these are school buses. The transit buses are, of course, are bigger, have more capacity. And so this slide is just very briefly about municipal EV leasing. So it's getting a lot of attention right now. And we are very happy to have knowledgeable financial partners that offer flexible, tailored leasing solutions to our participating fleets and cities. All of these financial services are available via Sourcewell contracts. The collaborative's primary lease provider is NCL, or National Cooperative Leasing. So on the website, when you click on a vehicle, a panel on the right will compare costs per month for different lease terms. So like a 24-month term or a 26-month or a 36-month term. And as shown in this example, which is a little older, leasing does lead to several $1,000s in savings over outright purchase and can be structured in many flexible ways, including like a straight lease with a vehicle return or a lease to own model. And these flexible terms meet the needs of your city. So again, it's a very tailored approach. NCL can also provide lease financing on those expensive electric school buses as well, and is currently offering cities the ability to defer payments for up to a year, given the current challenges. And also, you may be able to take advantage of state-based incentives, but those are kind of on a unique, like case-by-case basis. So again, just engage with us, discuss with us, let us find out what you're doing, and we'll find a way to help you out. Through the collaborative, lease offerings are also available from D&M Leasing and Enterprise Fleet Management Solutions. And on the website, you'll find these categorized under fleet management, since they offer additional services as well. But a quick plug for D&M Leasing. They've been a very responsive and engaged financing partner. You can always go over to they've established a companion website. It's www.dmdriveevfleets.org. So D&M will monetize at least 67% of the federal tax credit for municipalities, and they may also be able to source certain vehicle models that are not available through the National Auto Fleet Group, which is the collaborative's main vehicle supplier. I realize that can be a bit confusing, but again, definitely reach out to me, but also happy to answer questions at the end of my presentation. Still not convinced? Please check out the case studies that we've produced to document some of the fleet work that the collaborative has been up to. They are on our website. Usually we profile cities that have used our procurement mechanism in order to highlight how quick and easy and effective it is for cities to use Sourcewell to procure EVs. And we've also done some case studies and webinars featuring cities that have used the collaborative to lease vehicles, because that's not something cities typically do. So we thought it would be a very good moment to educate there. And we actually had a webinar about that yesterday. So you can find those recordings on the Electrification Coalition's website. That's electrificationcoalition.org/categories/webinars. However, our latest case study, which I personally wrote, so definitely check it out, it's on the city of Ann Arbor, and it highlights all the additional value that cities can access through the collaborative. So again, it's the type of staff support we offer at Ann Arbor, the analyses, the best practices, and the collaborative opportunities that help the city create strong EV policies that will support future electrification of the fleet, but also the entire municipality. So I have one more poll for you. That should be coming in at the end of this slide. But basically, this is a call to action. I'm looking forward to speaking with all of you. I want to hear about how the collaborative can advance city fleet electrification in Indiana. So definitely reach out to me about making a meaningful commitment. Check out our website, and yeah, just keep engaging with us so that we can support you. I think it's time for the poll.
Does your city have any outstanding purchase orders for EVs? Okay, we're going to close the poll. 13% said yes, 33% said no, and 53% said they weren't sure.
Awesome. But again, that's like really great to hear. So yeah, thank you, Kerri. Thank you, Greater Indiana Clean Cities Coalition. And really just thank you, everybody. And this is all my contact information. Again, definitely feel free to send me an email. That is that 202 number there. That's actually my desk phone, but feel free to call it and leave a message. The messages get transcribed to my inbox immediately, so I'll contact you as soon as I get that. But yeah, definitely check out our website. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. And just looking forward to hearing from everybody. And thank you again for this opportunity to address you all today.
Thank you, Cher. That was a good presentation. Lots of good information and direction. So, and I know we've enjoyed our time and collaboration with you guys, and look forward to doing a lot more projects with you guys to help some of these cities. I do have a few questions that popped up during your presentation. One is, and I think probably the best way to word this is they are also a provider for electric vehicles, and they're wanting to offer as an existing Sourcewell partner. So I think probably one of the best ways to address this is how do they get listed in this category? How do they get looped in with you guys?
Yeah, great question. So we've had we've received a lot of correspondence about that. And we've been glad to receive it, because that means that more people are becoming aware about the collaborative and definitely want to offer their services, which is great. So again, like I'm really with the Electrification Coalition. That is a question for Sourcewell. So what I do know is that Sourcewell has a very structured way of soliciting bids on specific, in specific categories. So kind of as I mentioned, there's one electric school bus supplier on the platform right now. Sourcewell is currently going through a bid process to collect additional bids in the hopes of offering additional electric school buses on the platform by the end of the summer. But as I said, like Sourcewell does this in a very structured way. So I don't think, I mean, it will depend on what category of vehicle, but I don't think they open every year. I think they open certain bids like every 4 years, every 7 years. So I really wouldn't be able to say specifically, but I'm happy to, direct you to some of our colleagues over at Sourcewell that can definitely tell you more. They'd be happy to have your business.
That'd be great.
So,
Cher. Yeah. If you want to send that info to me, I can definitely make sure that gets over to the right people who are asking that question. Next question. Are there any plans to add police vehicles to the options available?
Great question. So at one point, we were offering the Ford Special Service plug-in. We only had it was only available for maybe like a year early on. And I think we are trying to get that on the platform again, like the latest model on the platform again later this year. However, what constitutes a police vehicle? So that actually came up in an internal conversation that I was having with my team yesterday. And really, if you're looking for a pursuit rated vehicle, that is actually, to my understanding, that's actually not an official designation. I think it was like Michigan and one other state, I think it might be California, that have specific requirements on, like specific definitions of like what might constitute like a pursuit rated vehicle. But again, it's not really binding. They're more kind of like guidelines. So really any vehicle could be put into police service. I know here, so I'm in the DC region. I am in touch with a fleet in Maryland. They've been deploying Chevrolet Bolts for their community police department for several years now, for like 10 years now. So that's actually really, it's a really interesting story. And I can provide some more information on that if you reach out to me offline. Yeah, we don't have like the whole police or pursuit rating is a bit nebulous, but we do have some special service vehicles that are very typically deployed for police detectives or for inspectors, but not all of those. I think the best way to get those vehicles might be through DNM because they have an expanded vehicle offering that they're able to offer. But definitely can follow up more offline if that person will reach out to me. That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll do that. Thanks, Cher. One last question on EV charging equipment. Is the collaborative making cities aware of non-networked options? They're discussing how it can be obviously a lesser cost and sometimes not as complex if it's not networked. So I think they're just checking to see if there are other options available.
Yes. So we do offer, we have a number of vendors. We do offer networked and non-networked options. However, honestly, given my experience with the EC and with the collaborative, speaking with cities, trying to help them, install more charging infrastructure or plan for greater electrification, it is more expensive to go with a networked option, but honestly, that's really what's recommended. I'm in touch with many cities now. They did like a very early investment in charging infrastructure. Many of that initial installations, they were not networked. They were cheaper, but now really what is going to drive electrification is the data that we're collecting. So metrics through this program on, vehicles being procured and deployed, but also metrics from the charging station on how many, unique users do you have? How long do they usually charge? And how can we increase and maximize the efficiencies of whatever charging infrastructure is available to meet the needs of not just the city fleets, but of normal individuals that might choose to drive electric. So we definitely do have non-network options available for purchase, but personally, I would really recommend trying to go with a networked option because that's going to be the best bet for cities to maximize their investment in order to future-proof it. Because I'm telling you, at some point, if you have like the kind of EV adoption that we are expecting, you're going to want those metrics. You're going to want to know about, you're going to want to be able to compare the metrics on usage and uptake.
All right, that wraps up our questions for you, Cher. Thank you again. And as you can see, she left her contact information on there. And if at any time you're in question, you can always reach out to Greater Indiana Clean Cities. So thank you, Cher.
Of course. Thanks, everybody.
Now I believe we're going to switch over to the city of Bloomington with Lauren Travis. And so this presentation will be given by Lauren Travis. The city of Bloomington is a participating Climate Mayor's city. They implemented their first sustainability action plan in 2018, expanding its footprint over the last 2 years. Lauren Travis is their Assistant Director of Sustainability and will now lead the presentation.
Thank you, Kerri. As Kerri mentioned, my name is Lauren Travis. I serve as the Assistant Director of Sustainability, and in this role, I have the opportunity to try to reduce the City of Bloomington's environmental impact, both through our operations and across the community. So as Kerri mentioned, we have this Sustainability Action Plan, and it was passed by City Council in 2018. And the vision was that the city would lead in municipal sustainability practices. And one of those goals was that over the next 5 years, the city would reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and also at the same time look at reducing the city's long-term operating costs. So as part of that commitment, we joined Climate Mayors, and it's been a great opportunity for us to achieve reductions in emissions. And some of the things as a member of Climate Mayors is to evaluate where our emissions are coming from through an inventory. And we know that some of those are through transportation, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but also just setting goals internally for near-term and long-term emissions reductions progress, and also developing a climate action plan. So those things are in progress. And we've also participated in initiatives such as the Collaborative, which I will be speaking to further. A little bit of a background on our fleet. So the city fleet has about 578 vehicles, and we're looking at this fleet on the whole to figure out ways to reduce both the operating costs associated and then also the fuel use. So we have in the past purchased some hybrid Ford Fusion automobiles, and we have some fuel flex vehicles. Bloomington Transit also has about 60 vehicles, including 4 hybrid electric buses. So the fleet is diversifying over time. And then we're also looking at other ways to pilot electrification. And the purpose is to make sure that we have diverse and sustainable mobility options. The first thing that we did this year was put in a purchase order for 2 Chevy Bolts, and these are the city's first fully electric cars, and I'm pleased to say that they arrived last week. We're also looking at other options. So we have a bicycle pool at City Hall. So for those people that need to go a short distance to a meeting, we purchased an electric bike, and we look to expand that as an option for people that are going short distances as part of staff. Another exciting thing that's happened in the past year is that Bloomington Transit was approved for 2 fully electric buses through a low, no emissions federal grant. As we look towards moving our fleet to be more fully electric, there's been some challenges that we're working on. So one is establishing an internal policy and green fleet policy similar to what other cities have to systemize our replacement and sourcing of vehicles. So that's something that's in progress. One other thing that's common across anyone that's procuring vehicles right now is that there is some delay. It was about 6 months for the Chevy Bolts, and the lead time for electric buses is quite a bit longer, but they're on their way and the procurement request is in. We have been able to manage the difference in upfront costs by grants or procurement discounts like the ones that Cher mentioned. And then we're also facing some challenge in making sure that we have enough electric vehicle spaces. So there's still a limited number, but we're looking at long-term plans to expand those. Another thing is management of electric vehicle parking, making sure that people that are driving electric vehicles are the only ones that are parking in designated spaces. So just quickly to speak to our experience in the EV Purchasing Collaborative, it was of great benefit to us as a municipality to have a structured program since this was the first time we had procured electric vehicles. One benefit was that we had a source for education for all of our city departments. So we typically would procure vehicles based on what we had procured in the past, but now this was a repository of information about what our new options were available within this market. The other benefit was the process of aggregating competitive bids. So we were able to see in a very transparent way what the price was, class of vehicle, year, and then we were able to calculate from that what the expected savings would be over time. Another great benefit to us was getting support through the National Auto Group. So our fleet folks in Public Works were able to ask questions about vehicle specification and get those cleared up before we put in the purchase order. I would say generally we purchased vehicles more quickly because the process was clear and simple, and that reduced some of the delay in adoption. And again, I mentioned they've arrived. So June 2020, we have 2 Bolts. They're still working on getting licensed, but that will help reduce the overall impact of our fleet and the amount of gasoline we have to purchase on a yearly basis. So I just wanted to speak really quickly to the broader policy support for electric vehicles. This is obviously purchase of 2 vehicles is in support of some larger goals. And in terms of sustainable mobility, we're looking at mobility pretty comprehensively. So the first is we've gone through the process of licensing various electric scooter vendors, and they share data with us about how many trips are made on a yearly basis. And there's 3 companies right now that are active in Bloomington. That's great for people that are going a very short distance or are downtown and have been quite popular with students and residents alike. The second is that we've developed electric vehicle charging stations in our garages. So we have 2 new garages that are being built, and within the design of those garages, we included EV infrastructure and with the capacity to expand that as the market shifts towards more electric. And then fleet procurement. So we're evaluating our fleet, transitioning towards electric vehicles. I would say that this has generally been very positive. We recently polled citizens and there was a positive association. 78.4% of people that we polled supported that the city replace its own fleet with hybrid and electric. So there's a growing appreciation of the benefits of different types of vehicles. In terms of our broader goals, and this is in reference to the Bloomington Transit electric buses, we recognize that one of the ways that we're going to tackle challenges of climate change is improving our transit system, which serves a large proportion of our residents every year. So with the assistance of federal funds in that instance and state funds, we're accelerating our technology adoption. So we're looking to be creative in how we can finance and quicken the adoption towards electric vehicles. And this is all towards meeting our broader goals. One was in the comprehensive plan to promote more environmentally sustainable transportation options. And I would say that across all of our recent policy changes, it is reflected in updating city policies. The transportation landscape is changing quite rapidly. And so as a city, we need to anticipate that and know that transportation now includes things like ride sharing, potentially in the future autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles. Within the development ordinance that was passed this year, one of the benefits under the Sustainable Development Incentive was that if folks were including new development, to really consider including dedicated parking spaces for electric vehicles within their plans. And then finally, there's a lot of long-term trends that are affecting Bloomington, and I think will accelerate movement in this category. So we have increased customer demand for electric vehicles. A lot of residents have stated that they would like their next car to be electric, and we've had a lot of adoption of solar systems. So across Monroe County, there's over 500 households that now have solar on their roofs, and this is a great opportunity for people to integrate their solar systems to charge electric cars, and I think that will accelerate adoption even more. One is that the city since 2012 has slowly developed charging infrastructure so the public can see that it's accessible at places like parks and garages. And there's been some private development of charging infrastructure either by businesses or dealerships, so College Mall, other places that people are stopping to shop for a while has some charging available. We're awaiting some findings from the EV rate case right now that could potentially provide funding or cost offsets to apply for installing EV charging infrastructure. If that doesn't end up going through, we're still going to progress in this category, but that funding support would be helpful. So finally, thank you for having me. This is a picture of one of our newest electric charging stations at Switcher Park. If you haven't had the opportunity to come to Bloomington, we've opened this great new park close to downtown and tried to integrate some of these principles into its design. So if you have any questions, let me know, and thanks for the opportunity to present today.
Thank you, Lauren. We do have a couple questions here for you. The first one is, how much collaboration is conducted with IU to increase EV and EVSE deployment?
Yeah, so IU does have electric vehicles and some electric vehicle charging. I think that's an area that we can continue to collaborate on. One thing that we have been working with them on is trying to coordinate car sharing options better, so that there's some car sharing options off campus as well. But I think now that we are moving into, now that we have purchased the 2 new electric vehicles, that's a great opportunity for us to reach out to them again and look at some long-term strategies.
Great. Okay, and then our second question here is, did Bloomington conduct a survey to determine customer demand for EVs?
We have not yet. There's an active survey right now for the development of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So that's our regional planning organization. Is one of the questions in that survey for residents was about electric vehicles. So I'm looking to see the results of that survey, but then also probably working with our Chamber of Commerce to talk to businesses about installation of charging infrastructure on site for employers.
Great. Okay, let's see here. So we have a comment that Indiana University has taken delivery on 5 new GEM LSV vehicles.
Wonderful.
Yes, so that's great. Okay, thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you.
It was a great presentation about everything that the city of Bloomington's doing. Okay, so now I'm going to briefly cover an EV infrastructure funding opportunity for Indiana, as well as an opportunity to provide suggestions on future EV infrastructure plans. As most of you know, Indiana will receive approximately $40.9 million from the Volkswagen Trust in at least 3 separate installments starting in 2019, with funds being fully dispersed by 2028. 15% of the state's $40.9 million can be used for light-duty electric vehicle charging equipment for direct current fast chargers or level 2 charging equipment. Grants under this program are administered by the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, or IDEM, and overseen by the Indiana Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust Fund Committee. The Indiana Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust Program announced the RFP last week, which states that there's funding available for both direct current fast charge and level 2 equipment. Proposals may include projects that focus on a single statewide EV charging network, as well as regional, local, or individual charging network installations. The total estimated funding for this competitive grant opportunity is $6.15 million. Indiana anticipates awarding cooperative agreements subject to the availability of funds and the quality of proposals received. The Indiana Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust Fund Committee expects to select projects by October 2020, with funds awarded soon thereafter. Proposals for this are due by September 23rd, 2020 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. For more information and to sign up for updates, announcements, we recommend that you visit in.gov/item/air-quality/2712 to find out more. Next, the Electrify America company has begun to plan for cycle 3 of its National Zero Emissions Vehicle, ZEV, investment plan. The goal of the cycle 3 investment plan will be to identify investment opportunities and expand the company's charging network during their 30-month investment period between January of 2022 and June 2024. Electrify America is conducting a national outreach plan to solicit suggestions, comments, and feedback to inform its decision-making process. Electrify America is inviting state and local government agencies, stakeholders with the electric vehicle industry, and members of the public to submit information. So you have the opportunity to promote EV infrastructure development in Indiana. Local and state government agencies can help by proposing specific site locations or submitting information related to ZEV infrastructure plans and ZEV policies within their communities. Electrify America also welcomes invitations to community events related to ZEV infrastructure planning. And the deadline to submit for this is July 31st, 2020. That concludes our webinar. I want to thank everyone again for joining us today to learn more about the Electrification Coalition and its Climate Mayor's EV Purchasing Collaborative, as well as the City of Bloomington's experience as a participating city and their sustainability plan. Special thank you to our speakers, Cher and Lauren, for giving us a fantastic overview of their programs. And should any of you have any follow-ups or questions, please feel free to reach out to us at Greater Indiana Clean Cities using the contact information listed on this slide. Our website also has more information and resources, including signing up for our newsletter and a listing of our upcoming events. Right now, we can't hold any in-person events. However, any of the events that we will be hosting are going to be listed on our social media platforms as well as our website. And finally, please remember to take our quick 2-minute survey so that we can make sure that we continue to plan webinars that are of value to you. Have a great day, everyone, and stay safe.